everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. This week's vlog is exciting because I know a lot of you guys follow me for inspirational running content, and I have to say recently I don't feel like I've been particularly inspirational. I have been bumbling along, having a lot of fun, but not a lot of progress with my running, and finally I'm training for something and it's very exciting. Most of you guys probably will have started following me when I was training for Tokyo Marathon in 2019, so nearly 2 years ago now, and will have been used to me doing weekly training vlogs, and then from then I've kind of done various races but not necessarily with a huge training block in the lead up to it, since all of our races were essentially cancelled last year. So I haven't actually done a full training block plus race since Tokyo Marathon, and therefore I haven't been able to share anything with you guys, which has been sad. It's not like I haven't been enjoying my running, but it's quite fun to have something tangible to aim for. So this week I'm super excited to share that I'm finally training for a race, albeit a virtual one, in 8 weeks time, and I have just started a new 8-week training block. And the race is a 5-kilometer time trial on my lonesome along Bristol to Bath railway path, which is obviously an ex-railway, almost totally flat piece of ground, and I'm going to be trying to get a 5-kilometer personal best. My previous personal best is in the 21 minutes. I think it's 21:08 or something, but I might be wrong. I've not raced an official 5k since probably my second year of university, first or second year of university, so that's like 5 years? Yeah, about 5 years now, and my personal best back then was around 23 minutes, and now I'm trying to get it sub 20. Terrifying to even say. So my goal was actually sub 21, because obviously I'm just the other side of 21, and I thought with a bit of training I'd go sub 21, especially since the last few years I've been trying to go further and further and further rather than faster and faster and faster. So I haven't actually done that much speed work, so I wanted to make sure that whatever I was going to go for was going to be achievable. And then I spoke to my new coach, Holly Rush, who I'll tell you a little bit about in a sec, and she said, well, you know what, you could do sub 21, or I've already got a training program for sub 20, why don't you just go for sub 20? And I was just kind of like, sure, why not? Let's do that training program and then see how it goes on the day. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. I am not putting too much pressure on myself, but I am so excited to be back in training and actually like regular coaching, regular interval sessions, and just having a bit of a program week on week. Like I said, it's 8 weeks, so it's actually probably gonna go by super quickly. It honestly doesn't feel like enough time to get a 5k PB, especially starting from a position of kind of laziness, boredom, not doing very much week in, week out, but we will see, and I will bring you guys along with me. So this is the exciting bit. I posted on Instagram asking you guys if you would like to join me in this 8-week training block and 5k time trial challenge, and so many of you said yes. So I have set up a group on Strava, the running app. It's a club, so it is called March 5k time trial, all in caps. It's a verified group, so you should be able to find it quite easily, and you can join that group, share your training, it will share it automatically if you're part of the club, see what other people are posting, post any questions that you have, ask anything, answer people's queries or whatever. Just basically be there to motivate and support other people, and they will be there to motivate and support you as well. And I am regularly posting in that group as well, sharing tips and tricks, blog posts, my sessions, terrifying, you know, podcast recommendations, all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully that will help you get through. I've also posted some training programs in there that I will post down below as well. My training program is one of Holly Rush's sub 20 5k training programs. It's kind of slightly altered because obviously we don't have a gym here at home. I've shared that training program on the group, and I'm going to share it below as well because I do think it's really good. If you are not sure that you want to go for a sub 20 5k, which I totally understand because I'm not entirely sure I do either, then there are other training programs as well. So for example, like the faster 5k 10k training program with home workout stuff, that will do wonders for your strength and conditioning as well as your running as well. So it's really important to be a well-rounded runner and have lots of multidisciplinary training, cross-training, that kind of stuff. So in a few minutes, I'm going to be talking to Holly Rush. I'm going to get her to introduce herself, but essentially she's a GB athlete and coach. She really knows what she's on about. She hosts the Marathon Talk podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts for long runs because it's really long. So you're not having to like switch around every half an hour. You don't have to touch your phone because it goes on for like an hour plus. It's her and Martin Yelling, who is also another great runner and coach. And she is the one who's going to be coaching me through these 8 weeks. She really knows what she's on about, and we have a lot of similar attitudes towards cross training and strength for runners, not just running. And I did my first proper strength session since before Christmas, since kind of between Christmas and New Year, just this week, and I hurt everywhere, and I was just doing it body weight. So I have a lot of improving to do over these 8 weeks, and hopefully that will make me a stronger runner as well as a faster runner and a less injury prone runner. That would be really the ultimate goal. In a second, I'm going to have a Zoom chat with Holly. I'm going to ask loads of questions for you guys as well, so that you can hopefully steal some pearls of wisdom and lots of nuggets of information, and hopefully it'll be helpful for you whether or not you are taking part in the March 5K time trial challenge. But I would love you to take part. So if you do want to take part, head down into the description box below, and I'm going to link the Strava Club in there. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it, and I'd love to see you on the club. Hi Holly, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I was just saying to Holly, everyone, that the sun has finally come out here, and I'm now raring to get outside for my second session of this 8-week training program. I'm nervous for the session, but excited that it's sunny, because it is literally like the 4th day of sunshine in the whole of 2021 so far. So
I know, and it's going to get really bad this weekend, so it's best to get out of the way. I was thinking about you this morning when I was doing my session, when I got absolutely soaking wet, thinking, oh, I've got to speak to Flora, and then she's got to do her session as well. I was like, oh, I think we best must out for both of ourselves.
Yeah, no, definitely. For the benefit of our listeners, can you kind of introduce yourself, where you came from, the sorts of things that you do, and what you do now as well?
My name's Holly Rush. My background is, I didn't start running until I was like in my late 20s. Probably loads of people have heard this before, but I started as like a fun runner. I did a marathon as like my first proper race, like so many people do, for charity. And then I sort of got the bug, but the bug sort of didn't hit me properly, I would say, until my late 20s, where I sort of took it up much more seriously and found out that actually I wasn't too bad at it. And from there, I just got better, really. And I still can't believe that I actually managed to get selected to run for Great Britain. And I went to the European Championships, which was amazing, in Barcelona in 2010, to run the marathon, and came away with a bronze medal, which actually since been upgraded to a silver medal for obvious reasons. Then I went from there, because I came third Brit there. I was selected to go to the Commonwealth Games in the same year, so I went to Commonwealth Games for England. And then after that, I went on and decided to do some ultras and things, and mountain stuff. I got selected to run for the World Mountain Champs twice and won 2 medals there. So I've done sort of quite a lot of stuff. And now I coach. I'm a consultant for ASICS, the shoe brand. I look after the front runners there. And I'm also a head coach for the Runkeeper app. And what else? Oh, and I'm a co-host for Marathon Talk, which lots of people may have heard of. It's like a big running podcast.
I gave it a massive plug right before talking to you, actually, because yeah, Holly had me on Marathon Talk. So if you scroll back to halfway through lockdown number 1, there is my episode there at some point. Actually, for my own benefit, do you prefer road running or do you prefer trail running? Because I know you come from a road running background, but I know now you do quite a lot of mountain running and trails. So what do you prefer?
Do you know what? That's a good question. And I think actually, if you'd have asked me this maybe a few years ago, well, definitely when I was a road runner, I absolutely hated trail running, as it was never called trail running then. It's like a new thing. It was cross country or fell running, which it still is. But no, I hated anything like that. Literally, if I crossed a field, I would come out in a rash. I hated it. So I was always a road runner there. I think also starting running in London, because I lived in London, I went to university there, and that's when I started. And I think if you run in London, you just get used to running on pavements and roads. But yeah, and then I would say I was definitely really into the trail. Like I really did get really into the trails. But now I'd probably have to say I am a road runner, because I know it's weird, isn't it? I love running fast still. And it's, fast is relative to all of us. Yeah. So for me, I'm not as fast as I used to, but I do love it when I've got some speed. But I love running really fast over trails. So
yeah, Oh,
Oh,
it's fun. I have to say I prefer a technical trail to running fast, but having mainly done trails over the last year, I'm very excited to not have that sort of treacle feeling of running through mud. When you're on the
yeah.
pavement, it is sort of a totally different feeling. Honestly, I feel like they're two quite different sports.
I
And
think you're right. I think also though, when you're really fit, and you'll feel this with the 5K training, when you're really fit and you're running fast, there's nothing better than running on that, tarmac, that smooth tarmac, and running fast. When you're not fit and you feel awful, then actually it's horrible. So I think it depends on where you are.
yeah. Okay, so speaking about the program, a lot of people will be kind of wondering what makes a good program, what goes into something that means that you can go from being a sort of fun runner, like I've been for my whole life, to someone that is actually progressing towards a particular goal. What sort of training sessions do you recommend? How long do you think people should be training for? I mean, let's go for 5K because obviously it varies depending on what distance you're looking for. Tell us about the training program.
Well, I mean, it all depends on where you're starting from, really, doesn't it? Because if you're a complete beginner, then running 5K will just be about running 5K. It's probably not so much about times. So it really depends on, like, there's several factors, like where you're coming from in terms of your running, how fit you are, have you raced before, what your goal is, definitely, and also like the time constraints, like what you've got going on, because it's very different for some people who've got all the time in the world, and then other people who can just say, oh, I can only run like 2 times a week or something. So you really have to work out what, first of all, what the goal is and what you can do. So those are definitely things, and that's the same for any distance, really. Like if someone came to me and said, I want to run a marathon or an ultra in here comes the dog, in, I don't know, in a few weeks' time, then I would say, yeah, well, you could do it, but you're probably going to walk a lot of it. So it's all, courses. So, but let's say, let's talk about you. And we talked about it, and I said, look, what's your PB? What have you, your background? And, you've been doing ultras over the last few months, haven't you, really? Then you took a bit of a break. Your PB is not massively far off what we want. And so I would say for you, it's flexible, but let's say 8 to 10 weeks and see where we are. That gives you blocks. And I like to work in training blocks as well, especially for the marathon. So if you look at marathon, for instance, you could go onto any online website and find a training plan for you. And that could be anything from 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks for someone who's really, really fit and ready or, seasoned, to 22 weeks. I like to work in, especially for marathon, like 4-week blocks. So 3 weeks of volume and 1 week of deload. That's slightly different with the 5K. We're going to start with 8 to 10 weeks for you. See where you are at 8 weeks. Halfway through, we'll do a little test and see how you are. You may have seen that on the program already. And then we'll see where you are and see if we need to add a little bit of a few more weeks on.
And can you talk a little bit about the importance of strength training and cross training in a training program?
Okay, so strength training, this is obviously something that I bang on about now, probably something that I wish I'd done when I was running properly competitively, sort of semi-pro. I didn't do enough strength training. My strength training was, I'll go in the gym today and do something, with no structure, and I didn't know what I was doing. And most of the time I would be very sore afterwards because I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing a lot of repetitions with low weights, and that was the same every time I went in, and then I couldn't move. My adductors were so sore I couldn't run, and as a runner, your main goal is to run. So therefore, if you're going to do something that makes you sore or hurt, then you're going to just get rid of it, not knowing what I was really doing. And obviously now working with Pete, who is a fantastic strength coach and concurrently trains people. So he will put the strength work into your week or 2 weeks according to what you're training for. And I had no idea about that. I mean, I thought that you should be doing most of your strength work on a rest day, which is not the right way to do it. So it's just about putting the strength in the right areas and making sure, again, it's the same principle as running, so it's either high volume or low volume, and you place it accordingly throughout the week. And so that's what we started doing, just over a year ago. We looked at training plans, and you can get training plans from anyone. You could have a coach, you can find a book, but very few do concurrent plans, so they have the strength included in that. And the strength is so important because it's all about being consistent in your training, and that's what I wasn't, because I was injured all the time because I was not strong and my chassis was not strong.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is something that I talk a lot about on my social media as well. I come from a background more towards sort of speed and strength and conditioning. Like, I don't come from a running background. So when I first went into running, I thought it was about getting in as many runs as possible per week and kind of quitting everything else. And needless to say, I got injured pretty quickly. So my best mode of training, really, I mean, it's impossible at the moment with gym shut, you know, and everything, but my best mode of training is to have a combination of several runs a week, including fast interval sessions and including recovery runs, and then other training around that. So, you know, I do boxing, but I also love to lift weights, and it's something that people won't have seen on my pages recently because I've not been able to do it. So I was just saying before our chat, Holly, that I did a body weight session earlier this week, 2 days ago, and I am still killing from it. I'm absolutely dying still. So, you know, it's slightly frustrating.
Keep laughing in the background. I can just hear it.
Very mean, very, very cruel. I'm super weak at the moment, but I'm happy to be back to it. And also just having that regular program in there is just a really good way of making sure that you fit everything in.
Can I just say as well that that's what I love about your approach to training, is that you do have like quite a holistic approach to it. So you do other things, and that's the problem I think with a lot of runners. We just do the same thing and doing the same thing over and over and over again, and that's why we get injured. And also the point of you saying about recovery, it's really, really, really important. And that's when all the magic happens. Like I said to you the other day, it's when, you know, the good things happen, and that's when you need to fuel, and you also need to differentiate your runs. So they're not all, when you're training for something, like we said, there's a why, like, why are you going out for this run? I knew what my session was today and the reason for it. And then tomorrow will be an easy recovery run, and it will be really, really slow.
Yeah. So you mentioned fueling in there. Can you speak a little bit more about fueling and why it's so important to get right?
Okay, so I think I messaged you after your first training session, and oh yeah, that's it. And I think you said, I'm so tired. And I said, oh yeah, I forgot to say, if you're just running loads anyway, but then you suddenly start doing some really fast stuff. I remember when I first started training properly, and I said to my coach at the time, I was like, and this is not, I'm not saying this is the right thing, but I was like, oh, I feel like I need to lose some weight, which is, you know, that's a whole other talk. And I remember him saying, you don't need to worry about anything like that. He said, but when you start running fast on the track, you will burn so many more calories than you realize, and you're going to have to really eat for England. And that was so the case. So as soon as you start really ramping up that fast stuff, you become ravenous and you do need more carbs. And that's what it is. It's all about carbs. I'm so sick of hearing people talking about low carb. If you want to run fast, your primary source of fuel is carbohydrate. And you need to get that in. You shouldn't neglect everything else, but carbs, which you said before sessions, you need to have carbs. And maybe that could be something like toast and jam and honey or crumpets, cereal. Lay off the fat before, because that will just sit in your stomach, and the fibre, so you don't have loads of fruit and stuff or loads of cereals. That's what you need. You'll just burn it through. And then when you finish, that's when you can have your carbohydrate and your protein and your fats.
Yeah, no, that's really important. So many people take up running programs alongside a diet to try and lose weight. And I feel like you don't get the most out of either, because when you're dieting, you don't have the energy to do the runs. And when you're running, it stresses out the body. So you actually need more fuel. So the two things are entirely opposed to each other. And it's not for me to say you shouldn't look to lose weight, you shouldn't go on a diet. I mean, I don't personally recommend them, but I think if your goal is to actually have performance and to improve in your running, you should be eating what you need to eat to be able to do the runs that you want to do.
Exactly. It's like carbohydrates. Why are people so scared of carbohydrates? There's nothing wrong with them. That's what we need. You know, our brain needs carbohydrates, and white carbohydrates as well. Like, my best breakfast before a session or a race is white toast or a bagel with peanut butter or honey and a banana. It's just perfect, you know?
Oh, I love bagels. I've recently got back into them. It's just so
they're just never big enough though. I know. Have you tried those massive giant crumpets?
No.
Oh my god, you can get giant crumpets out the size of my hand. Those with a poached egg on top afterwards. Oh, beautiful.
You're speaking to a vegan here, but you know.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, I don't know. What could you have on top of that? Don't ask Pete.
What's this?
Nothing.
Okay, so a lot of people ask, on recovery days, how do you make the most of a recovery day? What should you be doing? You know, how do you make sure that you don't overdo it, but still kind of keep active through the day, keep moving?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So again, it depends, I'd say, sort of where you are in your training, how trained you are. So for instance, I would say to my guys that I train who are going for sub 3 hours, I say to them, look, you do as much easy running, recovery running in between your sessions that does not hamper your main session. Okay, so for some people that might be taking 2 rest days a week. Other people, it might be no rest days a week, but they're just doing really, really easy jogging, and that could be like 90 minutes a day, or it could be 30 minutes, you know. And so it's very hard to tell someone exactly how much they should do. But I mean, the other thing you could do is to heart rate as well. So just making sure that you're in zone 1 all the time in your heart rate and how you feel, and that's just basically knowing what that is for you. And if you're feeling desperately tired after 2 or 3 days, you need to take some more time off.
Yeah, totally agree. I think people, when they start a new training program, people are very, very keen to get going with that training program, and forget to actually listen to their body and what their body's saying. And when you first start a training program, it can be really exhausting for your body, and it might take a couple of weeks for your body to adjust. And I think it's really important, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but really important to listen to if your body is saying, actually, I think you might need an extra rest day, because from personal experience, A, I've overtrained before, and B, I've got injured before just from sticking rigidly to the training program I've been given.
You're so right. I mean, that is a big problem, I think, with the training plans that you can buy online, or even with an online coach or something, especially if you have training plans that are set over weeks and weeks. It depends what sort of person you are. I mean, probably a lot of us as runners who have goals, we can be quite obsessive about stuff. And if it's set out on that training plan that we have to do that this day or this week, you know, we feel that we have to do it, because if we don't, then we're not good enough or something. But that's why you do need to be flexible. That's why I find it's quite difficult with training plans that you get, because they're set, and even telling you how many miles you should run each day. Whereas I tend to be more flexible, you know, so like you, I gave you your sessions, but I'll just say to you, look, you do in between. The other thing that you do have to remember, mind you, as well, when you're doing a training plan, is you do need to look at the volume of mileage or time that you're doing that week, and you need to look at sort of the percentage or the amount of fast running you're doing over that time, because a lot of the time, if you don't run many times a week but you're doing your sessions, if you look at it, your percentage of volume is quite high intensity, and that's not great. And that's why I always say to you, like I said to you, if you can squeeze in another just easy recovery run, that's much better, so that you're, as an endurance runner, most of your running should be easy running. Aerobic easy running. It shouldn't be fast intensity. It should be 20%.
So that's the 80-20 rule, is that it?
Yeah, it's quite widely used. It's quite old, but it's actually really relevant, you know, just, you know, if you're going over that 20% of intensity, okay, that's anything sort of over faster than, well, marathon race pace threshold. It depends on where you are. I mean, marathon race pace for a sub 3 hour runner is really fast. Marathon race pace for a 5 hour runner isn't that much different from their easy running. So it's all, again, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah, okay. So essentially you should be doing 80% of your running approximately at a kind of easy pace, easy effort level, and the rest of your running, 20% of your running much more intense.
Yeah. I mean, in a basic level, we divide things up in a very basic level into 3 zones. So zone 1 is your easy, joggy, talking like we're talking. You should be able to have a conversation with someone running. Zone 2 is where you're able to say a couple of words, a few sentences. That's your sort of tempo threshold pace. Zone 3 is when you're going really flat out, VO2 sort of stuff.
Okay, great. What would you say is some of the biggest training mistakes that people make on a new training program?
Oh God, there's quite a few. I guess the one that we said, which is not listening to your body, just following the plan rigidly, even though it may not be right for you. I mean, there's a couple as well. It's things like, it's the same with the marathon training sort of mistakes that people make. And that is, this could go 2 ways. So being very over optimistic about the time that you're going for. And that's the same in the race. So going off too hard. If the elites do that, the beginners do that. So go, you know, still just race pace out the window. Crazy. Why are you doing it? And then equally not sort of playing down your performance. So I was saying to you, like, come on, we can do this. We're going to go for 19:59. You're not like far away from that, but let's have a go, you know? So it's about knowing your boundaries. So those are the mistakes. Yeah. And not listening to your body is a really, really big one. And also just doing your easy ones too fast.
Yeah, I think actually that's one problem that I've had, mostly because I spend a lot of my time in between training for particular races just doing the same run kind of every time. So I'll do sort of between 6 and 12k medium intensity for every single run. And that means I don't get any high intensity runs, but I also don't get any easy runs. So everything is somewhere in between. And that's fun for me. Like that, I like doing that. It feels very comfortable, but it's not really the way that you're going to progress your running in any reasonable manner.
That's right. And that's the thing. That's the key, isn't it? If you don't change something, then you'll stay the same. So, and that's it, it's blindingly obvious. Yeah. But so many people do it. I did it myself when I first started running. I'd run the same pace all the time and then wondered why I'd finished the same time in a marathon.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice, actually. I think until someone tells you that, actually it can be kind of, you don't necessarily realize it.
No, it's funny. Like I do mentoring sessions, so I'll just do calls with people, anyone, and they can say, oh, look, here's my training plan. This is what I do. And then they'll say, I don't understand why I keep running this time or whatever. And I'll say, look at it. I'll go, oh, it's because you keep doing the same stuff, you know, and you're not working around here. Just give people a few tweaks and that can just make all the difference.
Okay, next question. What is the best piece of running advice anyone's ever given you?
Oh God, this is really good because I always ask everyone else this.
So you need to have an answer.
What is the best piece of running advice someone's given me? Well, actually, it wasn't advice, but it was a really good thing. So the first time I decided to stop, I hung my marathon shoes up for a while. I had enough of road running. I'd ran the same time again. I went to Houston Marathon and ran the same time without a watch. I couldn't believe it. And I'd wanted to run a PB. Anyway, I decided I was going to go and do this crazy race in Nepal. So I went to Nepal, and that's where I sort of fell in love with all that sort of stuff, ultras and stuff. But the first day on this, it was a multi-day trail race. I think I've sent you the link to go and do this race, actually. And the first day, and it was in the most amazing scenery in the Himalayas. And I did the first stage and I ran it as hard as I could and was falling over, just like, I need to get to finish. I need to win. Got to the finish and waited. And people just came in throughout the day. And at the end of the day, we were all sitting around having our food. And I was asking them questions about like, oh, so what speed were you running at? What did you do this, blah, blah. And they were like, I really don't know. And then someone said, did you see that amazing monastery up on the hill? And I was like, no, I was running like really hard. And they were like, and then I realized they said, you just need to stop a little bit and just take in your surroundings. And this is about an experience. This isn't about racing. This is about enjoying what you're doing. And actually it was really weird because I remember that so vividly, and the person that said it. And after that, I decided to just stop being so ridiculous. I was out there to enjoy the experience. I'm not saying you should do that in every race, but when you're in somewhere like that, you just need to actually just appreciate where you are. Also remember why you started doing this. That was the whole point. I'd lost sight of why I was running and I didn't enjoy it anymore. It was about time, split times, paces. After that, I decided that I just needed to get back to why I was doing it in the first place. Yeah, I think try and remember why you started this thing.
I think that's brilliant advice, and it's something that is so on brand for everything I say all the time. Because I mean, why do we run? We don't run to, I mean, Holly, actually, you kind of do run to win world records and whatnot, but most of us aren't running to be the best in the world. We're running because it makes us feel better. It makes us more confident. It makes us in a better mood. We enjoy the scenery. We enjoy getting outside. There are so many reasons to run, and winning races is really quite low down on the list for most of us. And whilst it is really fun to push yourself, that's the kind of benefit in and of itself, not just for winning races. And that's one of the reasons I love trail running. But that's such a road running attitude, I feel, in a way, to running in general.
I was embarrassed by myself, actually, because I remember sitting around the fire and just going, so do you know what your lactate threshold is? And they were like, what? And these were people from all over the world who'd never ran on the road. You know, there was people from all over the world. And then I just felt like such an idiot. And then after that, it really something changed in my mind, and I loved it. And I fell in love with it. Because I remember after that first day, I finished. It was like, I am never, ever doing anything like this again. It's really hard. I kept falling over. I got stuck on a bridge with a donkey and they ripped my bag and all my water fell out. I mean, I was just in a mega rush. I was stressed. It was just hilarious.
Yeah. No, that's a good lesson to learn, definitely. And I'm glad even people like you can be learning lessons.
Yeah, another lesson from a guy who he was much slower than me, but he'd had a much better day than me. You know?
Amazing. I love that. Okay, so last question. I think it's one actually that you ask on Marathon Talk, but it should be an easy one for you. Why do you run?
Oh, yeah. So I was thinking about that a minute ago when I was saying about remembering the joy of running while you started. And I guess there will be people on here, though, who'd be like, oh, well, I started running purely to lose weight and it wasn't fun. So there are other sides to it, I guess. I didn't do it because of that. I run now, I would say. I think my why to run has changed over the years, definitely. I think it will be for all of us, probably. I run now purely for my mental health, because it makes me feel, I know what I feel like when I can't run. And when I say run as well, I will also include, because I know you do a lot of this, there's nothing more I love than going for a good hike. You know, I know that some people can't, it doesn't do the same thing. I have this conversation with Pete a lot because he's injured at the moment. So he's having to bike and walk and he just doesn't like it. I don't like biking, so I'm not going to do it. But I'll go out for a good old hike and I get the same feeling. So for running for me just makes me feel better inside. It just makes me feel better inside. I just can't imagine a world without being able to move.
Yeah, I think many people watching this will totally agree with that. And also your point about the why changing, I would say my why has changed. You know, when I first started running, it was mainly to lose weight and to look a certain, it was basically to have stick thin legs specifically.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre, and needless to say, it didn't work because I hated it, so I didn't run. Whereas actually, when I started to run more for other reasons, like it made me feel amazing, then actually the kind of aesthetic goals were secondary to that, but they actually came along a lot quicker when I started to run not for aesthetic goals. It's kind of a weird 22.
Yeah, isn't that true? Same for me. In fact, when I was running really hard and I had the same issues as you know, I had to look a certain way, especially when you're an elite runner and you're standing on the start line in a pair of knickers and a crop top. It's not nice, you know, and you're comparing yourself to all these other people. And I didn't look like those people as far as I was concerned. And so that was a big negative on my part. I wasn't good enough. And I think that's the thing. And I was constantly thinking about, for me, it was all about racing and times and the way I looked, which is pretty sad, really. But there'll be a lot of people watching this or listening to this who will be like, oh, yeah, I totally get that. But actually, when I stopped being like that, you're right. And I also started doing proper strength training. My body actually, without me trying, looked much better, I thought, without me even having to worry about it. And I feel sad about that I'd spent all this time, you know, expending so much energy on that stuff when actually I was going the wrong way about it.
Well, hopefully by talking about it, some other people can learn that lesson through our mistakes and not have to go through the whole sort of 5 years of feeling crap about yourself to kind of come out the other side. So that's it for today's chat. Thank you so much, Holly. Really, so many pearls of wisdom in that that I've certainly learned a lot from, so I hope other people can as well. So thank you. Wow, Holly is just filled with so much good information, and I always appreciate talking to her because she's so no nonsense. I think so much of her attitude towards running really reflects my attitudes as well, although of course I have so much less experience than she does. So it's always nice to know that how I feel about things is sort of backed up by someone who's so competent as she is. I hope you enjoyed that. I was going to record my session, but actually, A, I'm terrified about it and I don't know how it's going to go, so I don't really want to record myself dying. And B, I want to include as much of that chat as possible in this vlog, and I don't want it to be an hour long. So I'm going to save a recording of my session for some other time. Hope you enjoy the chat that I've had with Holly just now, and I'm going to include pretty much all of it in there so that you can kind of listen to everything she had to say. I apologise if the recording quality is not 100%, you know what it's like working from home and bad Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff, so fingers crossed it works out okay. That is it for this week's vlog. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. There will be so much more running content coming your way, especially over the next 8 weeks when I'll be training for this 5K. If I don't get it in the next 8 weeks, I will be trying again in the next 10 weeks. So essentially I just keep trying until I get it, and I will hopefully also be trying to get a 10K in there at some point, just residual fitness from the 5K training, and we'll see whether or not that works out very well for me. You can only try, right? So that's just what I'm gonna do. Again, if you have any comments or suggestions or questions, comment down below and I will do my best to answer them, and if I can't answer any of them, I will try and get Holly to answer them as well. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, if you want to join the 5K time trial Strava group, you can check that out in the caption, and I will link to you some of Holly's training programs as well. They are all brilliant, but don't forget to listen to your body because everyone is unique and individual. So that is it. Thanks again for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!